values are by far the most important component of your business. It's how potential employees are going to decide whether they want to work for your company or not. It's how you're going to decide whether you want to hire this potential employee. It's how your clients are going to decide whether they want to work with you. It's how you're going to judge employee performance. It's how you're going to actually make decisions in your company without you having to be present all of the time. Yet values kind of get a bad rep. They think that it's like foo-foo, it's not important. And I honestly speak with clients all the time who come to me and they say, hey, my employees, they're negative. Some of them are talking behind the back. It's just this one employee and they're talking over here, but like it's kind of awkward. I don't know how should I approach them. And how do you do it if it's like not KPIs, right? How do you tell an employee if they're underperforming if they are performing when it comes to like close rates or booked calls or any of those other like KPIs, like actually statistically significant KPIs, as opposed to like, yeah, I just don't really feel like I like being around you. I don't like the way that you talk. I don't like the way that you're kind of complaining over here, right? What is the KPI for that? That's what values are. It is your KPI for the things that you can't really create KPIs around. It's essentially determines who you're going to surround yourself with on a day-to-day basis. It's actually, in my opinion, the most important part when you're deciding whether you should hire an employee or whether you should keep an employee, because values is essentially whether you're going to like them or not. Because values should stem from the CEO. You shouldn't ask everybody their opinion. Hey guys, what should our values be? What do you think our values should be? What do you think our values should be? Because essentially you're asking other people what they value, which may not be the same thing that you value. And then next thing you know, you have a whole company of people, of things that this person values instead of the things that you value. Now you can ask your team members, your leadership team on feedback on the values you've chosen, which is what I do on a quarterly basis. But you as a CEO, you as the entrepreneur, you need to decide what are the values of the company, because that's essentially going to stem down from you. And these are really great, and it's a really great exercise to do, because then eventually what will happen is you'll surround yourself with a bunch of people that you like to work with. And if you're not going to be surrounded by people that you enjoy to work with, that you have fun with, that you can hang out with, that they share the same interests as you, then what the heck are we doing here in the first place? It's not just to make money. Making money gets boring after a while, right? Making money is easy. Anybody can make money. It's whether you can make money and enjoy what you're doing. And a lot of that has to do with the people you're surrounded with, because a lot of us are going to have employees. And a lot of the people you're surrounded with, the quality of those people have to do with the values you create inside of your organization. So I would say that if you don't have values, these are some of the things that you need to stop what you're doing right now and decide what the values of your organization should be. One of the best ways that I found to create values for organization is you just write a list of all the things that you don't like in other people. Okay, so just decide what you don't like in other people and then reverse that. And those are the values of your company or your values. So let me give you a few examples. Well, I'm going to walk through a few of our values in our company. One of them in our company is called extreme ownership. That's a value in our company. The reason why extreme ownership is a value is because I kind of grew up around, and I've been surrounded by a lot of my life, people that have victim mentality. So people that always blame, oh, it's the government, it's the politics, it's you, it's this person, blah, blah, blah. They like to talk about people behind the back. And I've always really never liked that, because I'm a huge firm believer that we are all getting everything we've gotten in life because of the decisions that we've made. And our value statement says extreme ownership. To blame someone else is to admit you are powerless. We do what is asked and then some. If somebody messes up, it was on us for counting on them in the first place. Excuses and complaining will not be tolerated. So that's like the definition of our extreme ownership value. And so I use that as a KPI inside of our business. And when I'm doing hiring, and I put it on our careers page, so that way whenever I'm speaking with an employee and they're complaining about another employee, that's fine. That's okay, because then I can maybe address the situation. But I can say, hey, let's not complain. Let's identify what the actual issue is going on here, or even the clients that we work with, or even the other people that I surround myself with in a day-to-day environment, right? So I love extreme ownership. I hate victim mentality. So extreme ownership is a value inside of our company. Another value inside of our company is client centricity. And this is actually interesting because it used to be client obsession, right? So it used to be client obsession was one of our values. But the interesting part is client obsession, we actually changed it to client centricity, because although we do love our clients, we're not obsessed with our clients. So obsession would mean that you would do anything that somebody asked, no matter whatever it was, because you're so obsessed with that person. And instead we decided, no, client centricity, it makes more sense because we love our clients and we want the best thing for them, but we're not obsessed with them. It's if they say, let's do this thing because I want to do it and you're wrong, and we believe we're right, we're not just going to lay over and just say, oh, okay, well, this is what you want, so let me do whatever you want. No, we're going to give our point of view, obviously in a respectful way, but we realized that the client obsession was too strong of a word. So now it's client centricity. And essentially client centricity is not you're doing things with the client at the center of everything. It's every decision you make, you're considering the client in that, if that makes sense, the difference in that, right? So that's why we changed our value from client obsession to client centricity, right? So the reason I created that is because I get anxiety if I have upset clients. I don't like having upset clients. I also see people create a brand, they create a personality, they become an influencer, and then they just do the short-term money grab. They burn a bunch of clients, they hurt a bunch of feelings, they overpromise and underdeliver, and then within 2 or 3 years, I never see that person ever again. I mean, how many big quote-unquote people do you know that started 3, 4, 5 years ago that you've never heard of again? You know, and I had the compliment on a podcast I was on recently where this guy had said, hey, like, why do you think that your brand has kind of stayed over the past 4 to 5 years and had this quality brand, which these are his words, not mine. I'm super grateful he said that. And I answered it the same way I'm telling you right now, which is I said, one of our values is client centricity. It's one of the things that we care so much about, right? So write down all the things that you don't like about other people, flip them around and make them the values inside of your organization. But that's not all, because whenever you make a decision, there's always 2 parts of it. The first is making the decision, these are my values. And the second part is making sure all relevant parties are aware of the decision that you just made. And so what a lot of people will do is, I'd say most people don't even have values. And then those that do have values, they write their values down on a Google document, they put it inside their Google Drive, and then they maybe bring it up once a quarter or maybe on an annual meeting, and that's it, right? In reality, what you need to do is you need to talk about values as frequently as humanly possible. I bet you, if you're watching this and you're one of our clients, you could, on one of the calls with one of our team members, you could ask them, give me the values of your company, and I almost guarantee you that they would know every single one of them, not just the values, but then the little blurb that we put underneath the values as well. And that's because every single department in our company goes over the values at least once a week. And then we always ask somebody, who's somebody that you think exemplifies our values this week, right? And so by doing that, we have literally ingrained it in their brains. So we talk about it all the time. It's on our careers page, it's on our proposals, it's on our job descriptions, it's on everything that we do. And I read it somewhere, but it's like whenever your employees are starting to get a little bit tired of you talking about your values, that's when it's just barely starting to sink in. That's when they're just barely starting to pay attention. So don't think by saying it once a quarter or once a year or even once a week that's enough. Twice a week, 3 times a week. These people are on the same meetings multiple times, so they'll hear the same thing over and sometimes ask them to say what the values are to you, right? Because this is the way that you scale an organization without you having to be present for every decision. Because for example, if something goes wrong in our company and we do something, let's just say an example, we do something wrong for a client, right? We shouldn't have done this thing that we did, which happens, right? We're not perfect. Well, what could happen is if you don't have values in place, you could have a client success manager or somebody blame the client, or they could sweep it underneath the rug, right? Or they could never bring it up to anyone's attention and we wait until it snowballs and then it explodes in 2 or 3 months' time. But instead in our organization, I don't have to create an SOP around this. I don't have to speak with my client success managers. Our value is extreme ownership. So as soon as something goes wrong and we identify that we did something wrong, the client success manager or whoever did something right will raise their hand and say, hey, Ravi, or hey, client success director, I did this wrong. I was mistaken here. This is what I did wrong. How can I fix this? And then we'll go to the client and say, we were mistaken. What should we do to fix this? Or how can we fix this? Or this is our plan to fix it for you. And so I don't have to create an SOP about every single thing. And that happens all the time without me even thinking about it in the first place. So that's how you kind of can extrapolate decision-making frameworks into your organization just by creating values in the first place. And now the final thing I'll talk about is holding your employees to your values. So one of the clients I was speaking to recently, they were saying that they had this employee and they were like, they had great company culture and everybody was hanging out and talking with each other and they all loved each other, but there was just one employee that was kind of being a little negative and they were complaining and they were saying, oh, blah, 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 over like at the water cooler. And so another employee brought it to my client's attention. And my client was like, what do I do? How do I bring this up to this employee? It's like a little awkward. I don't know what to say. And he was like, I kind of think maybe we should let them go, but I don't know if we should or not, because like, do they even know that they shouldn't be talking negatively? And I said, yeah, you can't let them go because you don't have any values. It would be like literally literally having a salesperson and having a salesperson performing at 10%, and you want them to perform at 30%, but you've never even told them that they should be performing at 30%. Or you said it one time when they're signing their proposal or on the interview process, and you never mentioned that 30% again. And so the salesperson's thinking, hey, 10% is fine. Maybe it's a little bit below average, but that's okay. That's acceptable here. Nobody's really said anything to me at this point, so why would it matter? And no one's ever said that it needs to be 30%, or I don't remember them saying it. And so then one day, if you're just like, hey, you're fired, it's supposed to be 30%, they're gonna be like, whoa, I didn't know that. We mentioned it 6 months ago. Like, I don't remember that, right? So the values is the KPI for that employee performance review. And so now you can go to somebody who is a high performer, who's doing an amazing job. They're great at their job, but they're culturally not a fit. They don't fit the values that you have. And you can say, hey, remember the interview process? Remember the proposal you signed that had the values on top of it? Remember every single day when we go over the values inside of here, I feel like you're not exemplifying this value here for this reason. What I'd like to do is give you 14 days to see an improvement in it. And if you don't, unfortunately, we're gonna have to terminate our contract together, right? And so now it's like, it's obvious that they're not a good fit. They're gonna know they're not a good fit. And then after 14 days, if you don't see any kind of improvement, then you're justified in letting that person go, right? Because now you've defined the KPI, which is in essence the value for your business. So think about that next time you're speaking with your employees, or you're thinking, oh, I really want to let this employee go. And what I've learned is whenever you're thinking of letting an employee go, right, it's typically one of two scenarios. You have an employee who has incredible values, right? They're like your best friend, they're great people, but their performance has declined over time, or they haven't matched the level of growth that you're doing right now. And those people are typically, in my opinion, the hardest people to fire, because those people are essentially like your friends, because they all exemplify your values. And so it's like your personalities, you get along, they have the same interests, and that all works out well. And so those are always the hardest, because you're just like, oh, like I would hang out with you and go out with you and have dinner with you, but unfortunately you're just not performing. And those are the hardest ones to let go for me. And the other side of things are people that are absolute studs. They are killing their KPIs, they're crushing it, they're hitting every single number, but their values culturally, they don't align. Maybe they complain, maybe they moan, maybe they do whatever else is not aligned with what you define your values are. Those to me are the easiest people to fire, because in my experience, I can always find somebody else who's a superstar. It's superstars are not, I'd hate to say a dime a dozen, but if you have a great enough company with great enough culture and great enough values, you can attract really great talent. So whenever I get somebody who is super talented but not good in values, I know that's an easy fire for me. If I decide to fire them, I'll put them always on a performance improvement plan, but let's say I end up firing them, that's always easy for me, because I just want to work with people that I like to be around. And the people that I like to be around, if they share my values, then they'll like to be around the people around them, because everybody's extrapolating the values out, right? And the way that I let somebody go if they don't align with my values is I say, hey, look, I know you're great and you're overperforming here, but unfortunately it looks like you're not able to meet our values right here, and that just means that you're not a right fit for our organization, for our company. I'm not saying you're a bad person, you're a complainer, you're a nagger. I would never say anything like that, because who am I to say that complaining and nagging is bad? I don't know. I just know what I like. Okay, so maybe complaining and nagging is amazing. Maybe complaining and nagging makes you the best person in the world in somebody else's eyes, but not at this organization. And so I can say to somebody, hey, we really enjoyed the work that you've done, and I appreciate everything you've done so far. Unfortunately, it seems that we're not valually a fit. We don't have the same cultural values here. So we're going to have to let you go, but I know you'll find another organization where you will align with their values. And hopefully, I'd say most of the time, they can appreciate that and they go, yeah, I understand that. Thanks. Sometimes they may get upset, but they can never be upset with you if you say that you're not a right fit for this organization, because that's not for them to define, the same way it's not for you to define that they're doing something wrong, when in reality it's just a values, and what they may perceive as right or wrong is up to them, and what you may perceive right or wrong is up to you. So anyway, I hope that all makes sense. I just made this video because a lot of people, they have the KPIs, the dashboards, they look at that stuff on a daily, weekly basis, but I can't tell you how many times, especially of my higher level clients who are growing and scaling an organization, they have these issues, and the first question I always ask is, well, what's your value of your organization? And so I highly recommend you create them if you don't. And then if you want a little bonus tip here, create a careers page for your company and put your vision, mission, and values on there. Because if you do that, then like I said at the very beginning of the video, people will decide to work with you because they're reading that you have these values and they want to work in an environment that shares those exact same values. So that's how we attract a lot of great talent. I can't tell you how many times on an interview, when I say, what brought you to us? They say, oh, I saw a YouTube video, something like that. I went to your careers page, and when I was reading those values, it was like looking into a mirror. It was like all the things that I love. And if that's really what your culture is like there, that's exactly what I want.
Hey guys, for the first time ever, we just released an insane
training bundle that has literally everything that I've learned going from $0 to $25 million online, plus $20,000 worth of free gifts that we're throwing in it, all for an insanely low price. If you want to get your hands on it, be sure to click the first link in the description down below now.